Hey dudes and dudettes, thanks for tuning into this episode of the Be Kind and Rewind podcast, a podcast chock full of everything that is nostalgic about the 80s, 90s, and more. This episode, we're setting the record straight by getting into the real truths behind some of the iconic nostalgic sports movies of our past time. But to help me uncover the truth is my two amigos who are what most will consider well-versed in sports and movies. Our first guest will cook you one of the best meals you've ever tasted, introduce you to a riveting documentary, and then promptly tell you to fuck off. So you can find him and his many personalities on social media. So I welcome AJ from NAJ TV.
What's going on?
Yo, yo, yo. Thanks for making it on. Thanks for taking time from your studies to make it on.
Yeah, I hope I'm going to fail a test because of this, so.
It'll be worth it. We're going to make it worth it. So my second guest, according to his Twitter and Facebook, is so funny and articulate, along with being one of the most freckleless gingers this side of the Mississippi. So you can find him hosting the daily sports talk show, The Sports Report, in our hometown of Emporia, Kansas radio network. So I welcome my good buddy, Cody Hudson.
Appreciate that, Los. But two things. One, it's actually called The Sport Report. It's nice to know that you listen to your friend's show.
Hey.
Second of all, I haven't seen you in a while, and I actually got freckle surgery.
I knew it. You're like the Sammy Sosa of freckles.
Yeah, I look a lot like Brad Pitt now. You're not going to believe it.
Man, it's what only 4 or 5 weeks will do to a man.
I am excited to talk about sports movies with you, though.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna get into. But before we get into it, I just want to let you guys give everybody a little background. Got some new listeners, so AJ, just kind of refresh everybody, tell everybody about your social media background and the movie analysis as well.
As far as movie analysis goes, I'm just a movie dork. I've seen more movies than I should probably admit to people. I had a little bit of a success as far as social media goes when Vine was around. And now I'm just I'm living the dream. I went back in time and I'm a student again.
You're like Marty McFly. You're like going to go to the Enchanted Under the Sea dance here before long.
Yeah, I just don't want to have to watch my parents fuck. That's all.
Hey man, avoid that at all costs. So we'll get to plug in the social media later as well. And Cody, tell everybody about the Sport Report. That's what I said it right, didn't I? Did I say it right?
You did say it right that time. It almost sounded like you've heard the show before.
Beautiful, beautiful. I heard your voice on the show, so I was like, I listened to it. It happened.
I've got a daily podcast. Was a radio show for a couple years here in our local area, and now I do it out of the bedroom in the back of the house, where Naj and I have worked on several podcasts over the last couple years, and you can find it on Twitter. Follow us at The Sport Report, or also find us at thereportersport.com. So that's a website where you can click things and hear things and look at things.
And make the internets work. That's how it's done, folks. So yeah, we'll get it all plugged a little bit later. But what we're here for is to talk about these nostalgic 90s sports movies, or 80s, 90s sports movies and more. Just for years, Hollywood, they've just been releasing the most inspiring, uplifting, and heartwarming sports movies that were total bullshit to some degree. You know, we're gonna start combing through some of the most noteworthy ones to talk about the differences between the Hollywood and the real life versions. So the first one that I want to get into, that everyone has seen, and I'm sure a lot of people have heard the real stories, but not everybody has. But we're gonna jump right into it. I'm gonna start off with Rudy.
I tell you, it's just occurred to me what the student body has been chanting for the last 2 or 3 minutes. It's the name Rudy. Dan Rudy. A walk-on senior, subject of a feature article in yesterday's student newspaper, The Observer. After toiling for 2 years at Carnegie Field and
go get it there, kid!
And Rudy's 1993 biography by Daniel Rudiger, who had dreams of playing for Notre Dame and had all kinds of obstacles, and we got to watch good old Sean Astin, Mikey from the Goonies, and Sam from Lord of the Rings, and everything else you can probably imagine he's been in. So Rudy's been on for a long time. If you have TBS, TNT, you probably saw it a ton of times. It's on the AFI 100 years of top 100 list, so it's got a lot of accolades going with it. So starting off, Cody, what were your thoughts like growing up, about did Rudy get you inspired before you went off to do something?
Absolutely. When I was a kid, I actually, multiple movies when you're a kid affect you and makes you think that things like that are actually possible. And believing Rudy was a true story, I thought that any dork that tried hard and got good grades could play football for Notre Dame or basketball for KU. Rudy kind of button hooked me and led me to believe all kinds of things were possible that really weren't. But as a kid, I thought that was 100% real. Thought everything about that movie was legit and it was historically accurate. And I've refrained from doing too much research, but I'm not sure if you heard, Los, but about I think a year or two ago, Joe Montana was doing an interview on a national sports show, and they were asking him some Rudy questions, and he was on that team. He was the quarterback of that team. And he said that none of that happened. He said the majority of it was bullshit, that they never went into the coach's office and laid their jerseys down. He doesn't remember Rudy getting the sack. And it really, I love Joe Montana. I've got pictures, multiple pictures of him on the walls in my home. But it really made me angry at Joe Montana. And from that day on, I've tried to learn as little as possible about what actually happened to Rudy Ruettiger. And I just want to believe that he really did get a sack in the final seconds against Georgia Tech.
I said Joe Montana. Yeah, when I did read about that, and it is upsetting when you hear about this kind of stuff that he sounded a little bitter. I think he could have left the mystique there, but I think
Do you think, Los, that he's mad because there is not a single Joe Montana, about as big a star as there was in 78 when it was set, and also in 93 when it came out. And not a single Joe Montana mentioned in that film. Do you think maybe that's what his problem was?
I think so, because to this day, like even till recently, I didn't know he had anything to do with the team or was on the team, like you said. So yeah, of course, being the star that he is, he's probably bitter that not one mention of him gets said in the entire movie. So I don't know. AJ, what do you think? What about you growing up? What was the inspirations from Rudy?
I honestly, I didn't see Rudy until I was probably in high school, and I actually read the same story a couple years ago where I heard that this was all fabricated, more so than I would have thought. But I just remember growing up, and I thought that every sports movie was real.
Yeah,
I didn't think anything was fabricated. I was like, this is how it really happened.
Yeah, you think the family's sitting there in the living room just crying about how awesome that they made their hero look.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show you that even if you believe it in your heart, if you scrub toilets hard enough, you can't play football for Notre Dame.
We should have known it wasn't a real movie when Rudy came home at Christmas and thought his dad would finally be proud of him. Rudy came all the way home for Christmas, and he only stuck around for like 45 minutes until his old man pissed him off, and then he just grabbed his bag and he went back to campus. And now, we've all been to college, some of us more successful than others, but at Christmas time, they close the college down and they don't let you back in. So I'm not sure where the hell Rudy thought he was going that night.
He was living with Forrest Whitaker, whoever. Was it Forrest Whitaker?
Was it Vince Vaughn or Forrest Whitaker? Who was he living with?
I think he's living with Forrest Whitaker. He was living in the storage room.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. He got the Joe Dirt cot in the janitor closet. Yeah, and like you said, he drove all the way home just to get his dad's approval. Didn't get it. Moped all the way back. And they even added in the fact that his brother, who gives him a hard time, is this basically the same situation as his dad. They completely made that up. I guess, the brother himself was like, nah, I was giving him all kinds of support. They just needed somebody to be the villain. They added the dramatic stuff. So, I mean, of course, like you guys said, growing up, we thought these sports movies were real. We thought, every sentence that they said was exactly what the person said in real life, not knowing, they're going to embellish this. They're going to make up a few things. They're going to make them, bigger than life type of situations. And with Rudy, they were successful because, like you said, Cody, I had no idea that Joe Montana had anything to do with that team until recently. And that movie's been played on TNT, TBS for years, like back to back. And so it's crazy that we're just now finding out. And he does sound bitter about the fact that he's like, oh, well, none of that really happened. Like they didn't turn in the jerseys. They didn't. I guess the coach was the one who really advocated for him to go in at the end to get the sack. I don't know if you said that already, but that's what the coach was like. Yeah, I told the filmmakers to, make me more of the villain, to give him, Rudy more of the shine. But then they really added, doubled down on it and made him the going against him going at the end. So it's just one of those crazy things now. It's a little it's salted it a little bit now that I watch it, and I'm only gonna think of Joe Montana's, just talking at some interview, just saying everything's wrong.
If you're listening to this and you've never seen Rudy, let's just assume that Joe Montana's lying. Okay, I've heard that he's been a bullshit artist a lot of different times throughout the course of his life. He does have 4 Super Bowl rings, but I've been told that he notoriously lies about where movie plots came from. This isn't the first time he's pulled some stuff like this.
Yeah, he told people also that Sean Astin and Elijah Wood didn't really drop that ring in the mountain on Lord of the Rings either. So I think Joe Montana's full of shit.
That Joe Montana, he's full of BS, man. And if it's not the first time, then we definitely should take it with a grain of salt. But we should hear from like other players you think would come forward and say, yeah, this is true, this isn't true. But I don't know. I haven't read any books on it, but I'm sure there are other people who've maybe come forward and confirmed or denied the stories. But like we said, I think everyone's just taking Joe Montana's for his word and just being like, yeah, this is what happened. And so now we have this, desensitized, or I guess delusioned, I can't even think of the right word, but a terrible view. Every time we watch Rudy, it's going to be, we're going to be thinking of all these potential lies that they've been giving us for years.
That is the most difficult part. And when I talk to friends of mine that aren't as big as sports fans as we are, and aren't as familiar with what actually happened in those stories, or maybe that the dialogue is a little corny, or some of the settings don't make sense. People that aren't necessarily sports people might enjoy those movies a lot more than we are, and I don't think they probably question a lot of the bullshit, like Rudy going home in the middle of Christmas, like we.
just like a moping puppy, just looking for that approval, just not getting it.
I felt so bad for him. I felt so bad for Rudy. The majority of that movie, I mean, it's a bullying movie with a little bit of football in it. Mm-hmm. I don't like the way Rudy's dad treated him. Vince Vaughn was a real asshole in that movie. Other than Jon Favreau's character that really supported Rudy, there wasn't a lot of good people there, standing up for him.
Yeah, they really made him like a loner, like he was doing it all on his own, which I'm sure to some degree, of course, he had to study and he had to work hard to make the team, but it sounded like in real life he had more of a background support than they showed in the movie. So I guess that would make it a little bit easier, but of course not easy to make Notre Dame at his size, I guess.
I guess, Joe Montana's pissed because he didn't get mentioned in that movie, but how do you think Rudy's real dad felt when he saw that? They made him look like a real asshole.
For sure. I'm sure the guy's he's living. I mean, he has to take it. He has to live in. I would imagine he looked pretty old.
Hopefully, he was dead before that movie came out.
I mean, you think
hurt in the theater if not?
Who could survive that steel mill that they were working in? He can't.
Oh, exactly. The guy had to have died by from emphysema by the mid '80s.
Yeah, the black lung pop. So yeah, that's my first one is Rudy, just because it's full of just deceit that we thought for the longest time. I'll watch it again now, knowing all this, and see if I still get the tickle in the throat whenever he gets on the field and other inspirational moments. So we'll see if it still holds up, knowing all these truths. So we'll see. So we'll just jump on to the next one. Cody, what's your first one you want to talk about?
Well, I didn't find out, and it's a little embarrassing. I know that True Stories is what you were wanting to be the theme of the show, but I was probably 15 or 16 years old before I realized that Rookie of the Year and Henry Rowan-Gardner was all fictional.
Brickma is the pitching coach. Now, key to being a big league pitcher is the 3 R's. Readiness, recuperation, and conditioning. You see, after the game, a lot of guys like to ice up their arm. Still other fellas think that heat is the way to go. But I have discovered the secret, Henry. Hot ice. That's right, hot ice. I heat up the ice cubes. It's the best of both worlds.
That was incredibly disappointing. A kid in my neighborhood, and this is a true story, a kid in my neighborhood jumped off his own doghouse to break his own arm because he thought maybe he would be able to throw 100 miles an hour and play in the majors after that. So sometimes these dramatizations can be dangerous for stupid kids.
Rosengraber, yeah, that's a tough one, and of course as kids we can be easily confused, especially when you I mean, shit, as a kid I'm trying to think which movies I thought was real, and it took me a long time. Damn, I can't think of the name of it, but I don't think I went as far as jumping off or trying to break my arm to make it short, but it definitely was one of those things. Like if it happened, if I accidentally broke my arm, hopefully that would be the end result after hopefully a doctor makes a mistake. I was hoping.
Yeah, it was, I wasn't, and I still am not, much of an expert in the field of medical science. So I just assumed that was possible, and that Henry Rowan-Gardner was I didn't realize until much, much later that Henry Rowan-Gardner, this is a little off subject, is the kid from American Pie that can't get Tara Reid to do it with him.
Oh yeah, no, I've seen him at a few like these random Comic-Cons, like out in like Colorado Springs or Fort Collins, and he promotes more of his like music he has now. So like it's kind of weird. You want to go up to him and be like, "Yay, man, Rookie of the Year," and American Pie, and he's just like, "Listen to my acoustic tunes." You're like, man, it's not what I wanted to hear.
Now his life topped out pretty early, but that was a movie that I thought was real as a kid.
What was the turning point? When did you realize that you're like, oh, this isn't happening? This is not real?
When my dad at the dinner table finally just said, "Look, you Max, that movie's bullshit. Gary Busey never pitched for the Cubs. Start reading and stop acting like such a strange bastard." You're
like, Daniel Stern is the guy, Harry or Mar from Home Alone is not the pitching coach? This is not unreal. I'm sure your mind exploded.
I was very angry. Very similar to the day I found out wrestling was not real.
Oh, man, I bet that was devastating.
Still not quite over it.
AJ, what about you? What's your first movie?
My first one is one of my personal favorites. I went with Remember the Titans.
What kind of power you got?
Oh, man, you know I got some soul power.
What kind of power you got?
What kind of question is that? I got soul power.
Yes, you do.
Right on. Let me ask you something now, Mr. Bertier.
Yes.
How strong are you?
I'm too strong.
What? How strong?
I'm too strong. Too strong.
Right on.
I want a victory.
No, I want a victory.
I want a victory.
No, I want a victory.
You want victory?
Oh yeah, some Denzel, my man.
It is. Normally these the fabricated Disney retellings of sports stories are kind of stupid in a way, or at least cheesy. They're played up to so everybody from all ages can go. But there's something different about Remember the Titans. Like, I don't know if it's because Denzel doesn't know really how to make a crappy movie, or what. But the whole ensemble, the whole thing is one of the better sports movies. And I don't know how historically accurate it is. I've never really looked into it, but I refuse to look.
Yeah.
Because if I ever found out that left side, strong side is a fake thing, I don't know if I'd be able to forgive myself.
Yeah, it is definitely one of Denzel's strongest ones. Definitely a pretty strong soundtrack. It's been a while since I've seen the whole thing, so I think it's one of those I saw like on TNT or TBS, just like pieces of it as throughout the years. And yeah, the parts I remember seeing were super inspirational. Either Denzel's giving his speeches, or they're making plays on the field, and like you said, Disney has a way of making it, kind of giving it the drama, but not too much drama, and enough to satisfy those, and hopefully do the real story justice. Because I don't know too much about the real story, so I don't know. I don't want to spoil for you if I happen to look anything up. So it could be like Rudy. You could find out, and it could take away from it.
And it's probably, even if it's not in the same exact boat as NAJ, I want to do no research because I love the story so much and it's so well done. And it's probably, I'm sure that we would be really pissed off if we found out how historically inaccurate it was. But in its defense, I would imagine there were a lot of situations and similar stories as they were integrating schools around the country at that time. So maybe it wasn't completely accurate, but I'm sure that it was probably a collection of stories that made sense in that time frame.
Yeah, and it is interesting because we did get a few movies in that time that referenced those specific, like you said, integration eras, and just kind of wondered who was more accurate, who got it right, who was embellishing. But just making it aware, putting it in the movie itself is enough to bring awareness that this type of thing was happening. So yeah, it was nice. It was nice and historical. We don't know how historically accurate it was, but we know that it was historical. So yeah, Remember the Titans, solid one for sure. The next one that I have is something that everyone has been enjoying for years, either on TV or on VHS, or even if you've made the upgrade to DVD, Blu-ray, but it's Cool Runnings.
Ready? Ready. Feel the rhythm. Feel the rhyme. Get on up. It's bobsled time. Cool Runnings.
With John Candy and Sanka and everybody else. Another Disney classic from, what was it? I think it was like 90, it was like 91 or 90, I don't know. Yeah, early 90s. And it actually made 154 million on a $15 million budget. So it's kind of crazy that we didn't get like a Cool Runnings franchise out of that.
Yeah, that was a really heavy time for direct-to-video sequels for Disney. So how we didn't get a Cool Runnings 2, Cooler Runnings,
yeah,
it is beyond me.
And like, you know, Sanko becomes a coach at some point, and like he's recruiting other people, and like, you know, they have the memorial for John Candy. Like pretty much at that point I think he had died.
Yeah, that actually might have been one of his very last films, probably one of his last 4 or 5, if not his very last.
I would imagine, because I think he died in 95, if I remember right. So
yeah, he was filming that movie Canadian Bacon, or was that Chris Farley, or who was?
You're thinking of Chris Farley. That was Chris Farley with Matthew Perry.
Okay.
That was Almost Famous. They were actually, Farley and John Candy, both their last movies were very similar.
Yeah, like Going West type
Canadian
movies.
Bacon was like an explorer type movie as well. I think.
Okay.
Yeah, it is weird. They both were like that.
One of his final movies was very similar to the Lewis and Clark-esque thing of Almost Famous, the Matthew Perry and Chris Farley vehicle.
Did it make you guys? I mean, I'm not much of a, I'm not an extreme games guy or much of an adventure. I don't like danger, quite like the bobsled. But I did want to get really seriously into sledding after seeing that movie. Did you think that maybe you could become a bobsledder at that point, Los?
It was definitely inspirational, but I don't know if it was to the point where I was like, I gotta get a bobsled. It wasn't like Mighty Ducks where you could just go pop on your inline skates and just, go on the driveway and go crazy. You're just like, I gotta get a bobsled. But like you said, it was we could use a sled, and that was the next best thing. So there were some good hills in Emporia for sure. So I remember having moments that I was like, this is I'm Cool Runnings the shit out of this hill. But I don't know if it ever got to the point where I got to find a way to get on a true bobsled team. So I don't know if it got that inspirational.
Do you find that these movies, and what do you think the cutoff range is, or the window age-wise, of people that know Cool Runnings and watched it as kids? Because I was surprised within probably the last month or so I was having a similar conversation to what we're having now. And there was a couple people around 26, 27 years old that not only had never seen Cool Runnings, they'd never even heard of it.
What?
Yeah, and I ended those friendships immediately. Later, maybe I'd overreacted, and maybe that there's just, maybe males around our age are the only ones that truly appreciate that great film.
Yeah, I mean, I think the range would be, if you want to go like birthday, like people who were born early to mid 80s, because like it came out early 90s, so we're all like, elementary school when this came out, and it was VHS, it was Disney, so Disney was just pumping everything out, and we had VHSs galore, so that's all we watched. And yeah, I think there's got to be a cutoff to the point where like probably people who were born like in the mid to late 90s just have no clue, or have nothing to do with Cool Runnings. They don't know the true comedy genius that is Dougie Doug. Oh,
he was unbelievable. I mean, that's by far his finest film. Is it not?
I don't know. Class Act was pretty good too.
That's true.
With the popsicle and everything. So yeah, it's I'm not sure. Cool Runnings. It's I am surprised out of the 154 million we didn't get more, but they stuck to this one. They definitely changed a lot of things from the real story. I guess Dudley Tal Stokes, one of the actual guys on the team, who did a Reddit AMA I think last year. And he said that it's a feature Disney film, so not much actually happened in real life. He said that the cast of the actual fictional movie, they said that they competed, and when they got there, that they were actually welcomed. They weren't people weren't bitches to them like the Cowboys, or was it the French and everybody else being assholes to them. So it was a little bit different from the actual story.
That's too bad. I was really hoping that bathroom scene happened whenever, that is one of the most inspirational scenes in a movie, when they're in the bathroom and the Cowboys are messing with them. Nobody does a bar fight quite like Disney.
And I see a badass mother who don't take no crap off of nobody. Again! I see pride. Can't hear you. I see power. I see a badass mother who won't take no crap off of nobody. Once again! I see pride. Junior! I see power. I see a badass mother who won't take no crap off of nobody. That's right! Right! Junior Bevel. Wait, what are you doing?
I can't remember what happened in that. Was that the bottle fight, or is there a different? Is that,
yeah,
that
the bottle
outside?
fight. They've been messing with the little guy. What is the little guy's name?
Dorian or something like that.
The one with the rich dad. The one with the rich dad. He's
Dorian.
He's in the bathroom and he's not believing in himself. And the big guy that looks like Serrano comes in there and tells him that that he's going to stop taking shit off these Cowboys. And next thing you know,
Yul Brynner.
Yeah. Yep. You one bad mother and you take no shit from nobody.
Yeah, and I always wish that was actually happened. I wish that somebody had actually said that, or I wish that they actually said, "Feel the rhythm, feel the rhyme, get on up, it's bobsled time." But no, that was made up too, and that one actually let me down. That's made up.
I'm shook.
I know. I'm sorry. I didn't know that I was going to be shaking your guys' worlds with some of these.
Next thing you know, he's going to tell us that Emilio Estevez didn't drive around a city in a van picking up kids to win a world championship.
Well, he definitely drove on solid ice in a limo. The whole time I watched that scene, now as an adult, I'm like, holy shit, that ice is going to break. That ice is going to break. For sure. He's definitely got a balls and a mullet in that movie, for sure. And I guess some other things, I was trying to see what else. Oh, so on the race day, when they show in the movie that they turned over and they got up and they inspirationally picked up the bobsled and made their way across. Well, they did have like a false start and they topped over, but it was so heavy they didn't carry it. They just kind of mopely sort of got it past the finish line, but it wasn't like to all the jeers and everybody cheering them on at the end. It was more just like, oh well, I guess they're finishing now. So again, another letdown.
And probably a bunch of Eastern Europeans sitting in the stands, probably laughing at them. Probably wasn't an inspirational moment at all, actually, now that I think about it.
Yeah, and they didn't even lift it. They just pushed it. And it's just like, that takes it so away. Because you just remember that very end of that movie. You're just like, oh, man, like you're cheering for them the whole time because they were the underdogs and people were, against them, talking shit all the time. And then they fuck up on their last run. And then they get up and they carry it. And now to find out, that didn't happen. Now they did the bathroom fight scene. Now they did feel the rhythm, feel the rhyme, and now the depression is starting to set in when the more we start talking about these. So yeah, cool running. So for those who watch it, I hope we didn't taint it too much. Cody, what was yet another one?
The Major League Baseball movies from the early '90s weren't. Those are probably the first movie, and we're probably. Less than 10 years old when those came out, and they weren't really movies made for 8, 9, 10-year-old kids. So it was a sports movie that got me interested, and then the adult humor, is what keeps me watching it today. But that's hard to say. If you're taking true stories out of it, you'd have a hard time arguing that the first Major League is not one of the best sports movies of all time.
You might think about taking Jesus Christ as your savior instead of fooling around with all this stuff.
Shit, Harris.
Jesus. I like him very much. But he no help with curveball.
You trying to say Jesus Christ can't hit a curveball?
It would be hard to argue that I'm sure a ton of that plot is probably made up of like baseball lore or stories that someone had heard of.
Yeah, I'm sure it's probably a collection of stories, but the cast is so. When you look back at that cast, it's so great. But to me, what makes that entire movie is Bob Uecker calling the games.
So the Tribe drops its third straight on this trip, 6-1 to the Rangers. For the Indians, 1 run on, 1 hit. That's all. We got 1 goddamn hit.
You can't say goddamn on the air.
Don't worry, nobody's listening anyway.
I used to hate Parkman when he was with the A's. It's amazing how a new uniform can change your attitude about a guy. He's still a dick.
Vaughn into the windup in his first offering. Just a bit outside.
Just a bit outside.
getting wasted up in the booth. You know, it just believable. Most believable part of the whole story.
Getting wasted up there, yeah, definitely. Pedro Serrano. Well, was Pedro in the first one, or was he in the second one? That's right. No, I definitely enjoyed the first one, and I remember seeing that only on TV, not realizing that it had itself an R rating, and that once I watched it on VHS, that there was so much more to enjoy from that movie. So yeah, you're right. The first one wasn't made for kids. The second one, they kind of toned it down. It was still pretty good, but the first one is like as late '80s comedy as you could get.
Yeah, it was just a little risque. The cardboard cutout. I mean,
I was just gonna say,
team win so damn bad. I wanted to see that woman owner naked so bad. I just couldn't, I couldn't wait till the end of the movie. And then you didn't even get to see her naked, so that was kind of disappointing. I hope I didn't spoil it for anybody that hasn't seen it.
No, it is disappointing, and people should know so they don't get their hopes up while watching that movie.
Yeah, don't fast forward to the end thinking you're going to see. Is there? And I don't think it's important to also mention. In all the movies we've talked about tonight, I don't believe there's any nudity at all. Is there, Naj?
I don't believe so.
Not a single tit in any of these films.
I think there's like dude ass a couple times, but that's about it. Some dude ass cheeks. For those who,
I mean, that's enough to get me to pause and rewind. But I'd like to see a little bit more nudity, if we're being honest.
Yeah, and like you said, the cardboard cutout was a total tease because the whole time you're just like, oh, they keep peeling off those things. For one, you're like, how did they get that picture to begin with? That was the first question.
Sexiest sports movie of all time.
Oh, man. Basketball?
Okay, it's pretty sexy.
Ooh.
I was going to go with Bull Durham.
You guys, you lollygag the ball around the infield. You lollygag your way down to first. You lollygag in and out of the dugout. Do you know what that makes you, Larry?
Lollygaggers.
Lollygaggers. What's our record, Larry?
8-16.
8-16. How'd we ever win 8?
It's a miracle.
It's a miracle.
A young Susan Sarandon banging every minor league baseball player in town.
Oh, okay, yeah. She's showing showing that other girl the ropes or whatever too.
Yeah, I think she showed every dude that could throw and hit, or every single dude on the team at some point spent a night at Susan Sarandon's house.
Dude,
I never played baseball so damn bad in my life.
Young Susan Sarandon for sure. She was hot to trot.
Babe. But I don't believe, maybe Tim Robbins asked, but other than that, I don't think any good nudity in that one either. I hate to sound like a pervert, but that's what's on my mind.
I can't imagine that Kevin Costner didn't try to get his ass in that movie somehow.
Yeah, you would think. That a little Kevin Costner ass would have made that.
I mean, if he drinks his own pee in Waterworld, he's gonna show his ass in Bull Durham.
I'm gonna rewatch that movie tonight just to see if there's Kevin Costner ass in it.
Just get some confirmation on that.
Google here on the side, Kevin Costner ass.
But going back to Major League, it's definitely Charlie Sheen, one of his finest performances. I feel with the haircut, the glasses. Just his attitude and everything. I feel like that's just like how Charlie Sheen kind of acts anyway. So that's kind of one of those things you're like, is he acting or is this just Charlie Sheen?
Yeah, I would have to say, I mean, if he's better in a movie, I don't know what it is. I know he's had some serious roles. It was that Platoon I think he was pretty good in. But just all around, I think he is incredible in that movie. It's got to be his best.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything that he's been in that's better. Maybe Hot Shots.
I was going to say Part 2.
Yeah, that was a good movie. The movie where he kidnaps the girl and they're driving across the country. Getaway, I think.
The Chase.
That's not a bad one.
Christy Swanson?
Yeah, Christy Swanson. Yeah.
Yep. He's got the
he's just so believable, and it makes you wonder when you watch baseball today why dudes don't come running out of the bullpen with Wild Thing playing in a crazy mullet or just some crazy ass look to them.
I thought they did.
So much more intimidating. Some guys do, but not enough. I would do it. I would do it every. Can you imagine how intimidated you'd be? Charlie Sheen comes running out of the bullpen with that mullet while Wild Thing's playing. I wouldn't be able to stand in the batter's box.
What would be your sprinting out song?
Ooh, that's a good question. Probably the Whisper song by the Yin Yang Twins.
Mine would be The Cup of Life by Ricky Martin. Do you really want it? Yeah. Which is totally a B-side.
Yeah, I'm not sure that would intimidate anybody. Might make some people wonder.
Oh man, dude, that's gonna get everybody popping in the crowd. I might do a few cartwheels.
Nothing intimidates somebody like a cartwheel.
For sure. Naj, what about you?
let's see here. I probably Rapper's Delight by the.
Oh, so you're gonna have to do some like funky dances on you. You're not sprinting out. You're like kind of like popping, locking while you're going out.
Yeah, that's kind of what I maybe do a snake.
A 300-yard snake. That'd be great.
I've done it before, so I could probably do it again.
I mean, if it's possible, do it. So yeah, I think I agree. There needs to be more pump up music for these pitchers to match the Wild thing. They can't take the Wild thing. That's already taken. They got to come up with their own thing, but something like that on that level would be nice. So yeah, I think Major League, and that's like I said, Major League 2 was pretty solid. I loved how they switched out Wesley Snipes and Omar Epps like we weren't gonna know.
Yeah.
Willie Mays.
Yeah, and that was back before you could just get on your computer and look it up.
Yeah, you just kind of had to live with it.
No explanation, just like, what the hell?
Yeah, you're like, is Wesley Snipes doing White Man Can't Jump 2 or something?
He's going Sizzler. He's not available.
For sure. So yeah, I enjoyed the second one, but like you said, the first one is a true classic. AJ, what's your next one?
I thought about this for a long time, and I thought about something like Glory Road, about the Texas Western basketball team, maybe Bagger Vance, something like that. But when I really got down to it and really got into my emotions, the most redeeming sports movie true story of all time is that of Bobby Boucher in The Waterboy.
Waterboy's killing him. Best tackler I've seen since Joe Montana.
Joe Montana was a quarterback, you idiot.
I said Joe Montana.
Mama said?
That may still be one of the most quoted. I mean, Billy Madison and then probably The Waterboy are his most quoted movies of all time.
Yeah.
But you're right. As far as a comedic sports film in that era, that is an incredible movie. The football scenes are great.
That's a documentary.
Oh, is it?
Oh, yeah.
That's true. I guess the Mudcats did win the Bourbon Bowl that year.
It's history. It's ESPN Ocho lore.
And I believe that is the first of many Dan Patrick appearances in a Sandler movie.
Oh yeah,
started it.
I'm sure. I mean, those guys. He's got the team. He's got the Adam Sandler team in every movie. But yeah, I agree. Waterboy, instant classic. Like Cody said, quotable. Use quotes all the time. Even Rob Schneider, you can do it. He still gets hit up on that shit. I'm sure every day he hears that. I'm sure either he loves it and hates it at the same time.
What else is there?
Yeah, that may be Rob Schneider's finest performance in a film.
For sure. And of course, I still use Joe Montana to this day, even though 90% of the time people just get a blank stare. But in my own head, I'm laughing.
Best part of that movie to me is when Bobby Boucher is finally accepted by the football team, and he goes. They have a big college campus party, and of course at this time I'm not in college, so I don't know what a college party looks like. And at the party, like all the teachers are there hanging out.
Yeah, I was like, I remember it was like the Colonel's here. Yeah, I was like, the Colonel's here. Wow. Yeah, and then you just think that chicks are just gonna walk up to you and talk to you like they did with Bobby. You're like, oh, that's just gonna happen. While wearing your dad's 70s suit.
Why do you think Bobby's mama didn't want him to be with Vicky Valancourt?
Oh, she was totally just it's funny, she was miserying him, and she was already in the movie Misery. She just wanted him for herself. She didn't want to share Bobby Boucher. It was. I mean, I don't know. Roy Orbison, I don't know.
It did make me want to drink water, though.
Oh, some fine quality H2O.
I know because of that movie why alligators are so angry.
Medulla oblongata, yeah, everybody knows that now.
It's because they got all them teeth and no toothbrush.
How many times? I don't know about you guys, but I have used a medulla oblongata joke. I mean, I bet I use that joke once every couple weeks. I mean, I'm probably into the thousands on that joke, and that's courtesy of Waterboy.
Oh yeah, and I've tagged on, and she likes. I like her she showed me her boobies, and I like them too. I've tagged that onto all sorts of stuff throughout the years.
Well, I like school, and I like football, and I'm going to keep doing them both because they make me feel good. And by the way, Mama, alligators are ornery because they're medulla oblongata. And I like Vicky, and she likes me back. And she showed me her boobies, and I like them too.
See, and that's the thing. It's like we'll get into the Adam Sandler movies. Those movies are just like we hate the ones we've seen recently, but those like first decade were just classics.
Anything pre-Big Daddy.
But if you want to throw, I mean, the other great sports movie he made is Happy Gilmore, and it's almost so good that I kind of I watched it so many times as a kid that I almost can't watch it anymore. But it was great. There's no villain in a sports film that you can hate quite like Shooter McGavin.
I think you should use a 5-iron.
Think so? You're my wedge.
5-iron, huh? Well, you're fine.
You gotta admit, that's a hell of a drive, 450 yards, huh?
Yeah, how do you finish again? Dead last? Oh, yeah. He had a good day, though. Thanks. Big trouble, though, pal. I eat pieces of shit like you for breakfast.
You eat pieces of shit for breakfast?
No,
and you're right. It's hard to watch now, but if you do watch it, you almost have to be like introducing it to somebody who hasn't seen it, just so you can like laugh harder than they are at the parts that are actually hilarious. But yeah, and Shooter McGavin, poor Shooter got a DUI recently, but he'll hang in there.
And he told the cops when he got pulled over that he was
Shooter McGavin. Yeah, he's like, you know who I am.
He said, you know who I am? I'm Shooter McGavin.
That son of a bitch finally got what was coming to him.
He did.
Dick. He was going to win Happy's grandma's house and put all of his trophies in his old bedroom. And I think he had, like, I mean, remember that fantasy Happy had that was a little weird about Shooter hooking up with his grandma?
Oh, yeah. And he ate that, and he put a tongue in his mouth.
Yeah, Shooter had some messed up intentions that I'm so glad that Happy ended up putting him down at the end.
And he ate pieces of shit for breakfast.
That jacket belongs to Mr. Gilmore.
I'll be seeing you later in the parking lot. Yeah, and like you said, Adam Sandler is guilty of two classic sports movies. Because Happy Gilmore, man, that was one you can just put on while you fell asleep. Just pop the VHS in, hit a few quotes, and then just pass out. That and Billy Madison. Billy Madison was another one you could just fall asleep to.
Yeah, by far.
Billy Madison is the best Adam Sandler movie.
I would 100% agree with that.
I could quote it to this day.
I actually am funny thing is I'm going back to school here pretty soon too, and if I can get through kindergarten through 12th grade in 6 months, my dad's going to let me take over his hotel chain. If not, it's going to go to that asshole Eric. But I'm kind of hoping that my dad gives it to Crazy Carl and lets him run things until I get a little bit more mature.
Yeah, I think Carl, it would be good hands with Carl, but just don't let him walk in on you while you're trying to make the moves, because that's what Carl does.
Yeah, Carl, he really did mess up what I thought was going to be an excellent sex scene in Billy Madison. You're right. That's a spoiler alert, kids.
Sorry for those who've not seen the 1995 classic Billy Madison.
But just one little spoiler, Billy Madison, he has sex with Pete Sampras' wife in that movie.
Oh, Veronica, come on. So hot. Want to touch the hiney?
Oh yeah, that's right. She is married. I did see that she was married to Pete Sampras, and she's Sonya Blade.
She is Sonya Blade.
Oh, I remember right. That was like literally like 2 years after Billy Madison. I was already had a huge crush on her then, and then of course in 7th grade, through all the hormones, you see her in Mortal Kombat. You're like, oh my god.
And I really think that the flaming bag of shit scene might be one of my favorite comedy scenes in any movie ever.
They should have an AFI top 100 scenes of all time, and that should definitely be in there. If they don't already do.
McDonald, a part of that people forget.
He called the shit. Who
the hell is it? What do you want? Judas Priest Barber is one of those flaming bags again.
Don't put it out with your boots, Tad.
Don't tell me my business, devil woman. Call the fire department. This one's out of control. Poop again!
He called the shit poop!
Don't tell my business, devil woman.
Don't put it out with your boots, Ted.
Man, can you imagine if people are listening to this that have only seen Adam Sandler movies, after about 2005? I mean, they probably think we're idiots.
It's like these guys are old as shit.
Trust us, kids. There's good stuff back there in the 90s. You need to go look at it.
Yeah, definitely. And Adam Sandler, even though the movies are kind of shit now, they were classics at one point. So we advise you check out the early catalog of Adam Sandler. But well, that was the last one. That I didn't have any more sports movies. Did you guys have any other sports movies you wanted to mention or go over?
The only other one I have in my head, and it wasn't a great movie, but it did have a great cast of professional athletes in it, is Blue Chips from the early 90s.
There's not one of you that's learned how to win. We got hammered the last 4 games, and it stops right now. If you keep playing the way you're playing, we're going to get our ass beat again tonight. So depressed, I don't even want to talk about it. I'm through fighting, you sons of bitches! You're the dumbest team I ever coached. You guys think of something.
I was such a big Shaquille O'Neal fan when I was a kid, and Shaquille O'Neal, Penny Hardaway were in that movie. Nick Nolte. That movie came out, I think I was 8 or 9, and my grandma took me to that, just thinking it was a basketball movie with my favorite player in it.
It's like a documentary of the NCAA.
The first scene of the movie, if you haven't seen it, Nick Nolte punts a basketball into the stand game, Bobby Knight style, and he basically tells everybody in the arena to go fuck themselves at some point before he gets tossed. And I almost thought my grandma wasn't going to let us stay and finish out the film, but shout out to Grandma, she did.
Yeah, that movie was like a reality check for, especially like you said, we were growing up, we were watching college basketball, being KU fans, and then you see like this kind of, especially when the big tall white guy was like, I need $125,000 under the table, and I was like, what? They can do that? They can just be like, I need this much money, give it to me, or I'm not gonna play for you. I was like, that happens? Like those like realities were setting in for me, and I was like, holy shit, this probably actually does happen. And of course,
another movie at that time that I didn't realize how realistic it was is the Program. That's a great college book that people should see if they haven't seen that before. But it's the same way. It almost seems like they're kind of making things up and making college football seem so much dirtier than what it really is. But as an adult, you realize that they were maybe just hitting the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, they almost didn't know enough. And it's crazy because like the steroid use and like that guy going crazy on that chick. Like, I mean, that shit happens like almost daily now, reported or unreported. So it is something that, like you said, and that was like early 90s when that one came out.
Yeah, it was something like that.
I think they showed that to like like a training course for like every incoming athletes at every university. Like, don't do any of this, please.
There's another couple that I always think of. I think of Necessary Roughness.
Now, how could the ref call that? It was a clean kick to the face mask.
Illegal contact. Number 51. Senkutsu elbow thrust to the up back. Oimawatsu roundhouse lunge kick to the quarterback. Takatami and sword block to the... Shoot, never mind. 15 yards. First down.
Ooh, yeah. Kathy Ireland, Sinbad.
Sinbad, yeah.
That's a great movie.
Dude, I love the foreign guy who kicked the shit out of people, the punter or whatever. That guy was my favorite.
And then I think of Little Giants. With the icebox.
The annexation of Puerto Rico.
That's right.
Fumble-rooski.
I remember being like 10 years old and thinking, like, when John Madden and Lawrence Taylor and Emmitt Smith and Bruce Smith and I can't remember, is it Michael Irvin?
No, Michael Irvin was knee deep in cocaine in that year, so I can't remember. Emmitt Smith was definitely there.
Brian Bosworth, maybe.
Ooh, the boss.
But they walk off that bus with John Madden, and I thought that was the coolest shit I'd ever seen.
Oh yeah, you get goosebumps because you're like, of course, this is like peak Madden NFL games. Like we're playing at NES, Super Nintendo, what have you. And to see John Madden in a movie, you're like, holy shit, this guy. And then he starts drawing, do his signature, like making drawing points to make a play that make no sense.
It's a fantastic film.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing Rick Moranis calling plays for my Kansas City Chiefs one of these days with the creativity he showed in that film.
For sure. What about Ed O'Neill? He Al Bundy, 4 touchdowns in one single high school football game.
That's right.
Still the all-time leading rusher at Polk High.
I think it still stands.
You know that a shoe salesman like Al didn't get a woman like Peg without some serious accomplishments in his past.
I'm surprised that he didn't have like a shrine of it in the house, unless he did. But I'm surprised it wasn't like behind the couch.
I feel like he did.
He used to put when he got real pissed at Peg, he used to put his Polk High football jersey on and go sit in the garage and stare. Just stare at the wall. Every time that neighbor Marcy'd come over, he'd want to kill himself. Poor Al, man.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, no, you're right. He needed those accolades if he was going to land somebody like Peggy. But that is hilarious. I forgot that he went in the garage to pout and put on his jersey. But I think a comeback from Rick Moranis and Ed O'Neill, a Little Giants 2 would be. I'd take it. What would be a plot of a Little Giants 2?
Oh, I would imagine that the simple way would be to go, grandkids involved, but I think you involve Spike in the icebox as coaches somehow.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe I think it'd be kind of fitting if the dorky kid whose mom wouldn't let him play anything had like a kid that ended up being like a stud, something like that. I don't know.
Or maybe his mom she dies in like a hot air balloon accident, and then that kid becomes a linebacker, and he just has all this freedom with his mother having left the earth, and he becomes the leading tackler, leads him to a championship, Bobby Boucher style, and maybe that's just another angle you could go to.
That would be cool.
I take it. I would definitely take that. I think I agree. Icebox and Spike should be some coaches. Who else should we bring back? Was the Asian kid who kicked the field goal? Devin Sawa? What was his name?
That kid.
Junior.
They thought his head was bleeding, but he had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in his helmet.
Zoltek, I think. Wasn't that name?
Zoltek, that's right.
Yeah.
They told him he was a pussy because he ate puffy Cheetos.
Oh, yeah. From that day on, I literally thought if I got puffy Cheetos, people would think I was a pussy. I was like, I can't do it. Hard Cheetos all the way. I'd bring back Junior, but Junior's like, I don't know, we'll say he's like an insurance salesman or something, so he's just like, I gotta make a comeback, so I'm gonna coach the opposing team, so maybe he's like an asshole now or something.
Devin Sawa was like the poor man's Jonathan Taylor Thomas in the 90s.
And then they teamed up for that Wild America movie, and that was like, people were blown away by that. I was like, man, you can't have that many parted hairlines in one movie.
It's too bad that Jonathan Taylor Thomas, the absolute heartthrob of the 90s, doesn't have a sports film that he was in. I mean, he was in the movie with Chevy Chase. I think he was in another couple shitty movies, but I think he played Huckleberry Finn. But not
He never got a sports
Randy must not have been able to pass and catch back in the.
I could actually see Randy or JTT being uncoordinated. So to the fact that he's like, please don't give me a sports movie, but I would have liked it because, I mean, he was in, like you said, some shitty movies. Man in the House. I actually didn't mind it with Chevy Chase. Definitely Chevy Chase's downfall for sure in like the mid 90s. And then what was the other movie? He's like I'll Be Home for Christmas, I think was another one.
Is there one with Tim Allen called like Welcome to the Jungle?
That was with the he was another kid. It's the same kid from Detroit Rock City, and I'm trying to think what other movie he's in. But no, it was a different guy.
Yeah, he would be a good guest, Los. You need to reach out to JTT.
I'm telling you, the research has been deep, and he's hard to get. But we got somebody in the next couple of weeks. We got Colt from Three Ninjas is going to be on here in a couple of weeks.
Dracula's Emily, Dracula's Emily, Dracula's Emily.
So that was a pretty solid one.
You could consider that a sports film. I mean, karate's a sport.
That's true.
I've never seen a better fighting technique than to give all of your opponents diarrhea. I mean, it was genius, and I forever after that. I wonder how many kids put laxatives in somebody's drink because of Three Ninjas.
At that point is when I knew that I figured that's when I knew that laxative will do that. So I was like, oh, this is a joke that I will play. But I never played it. But I'm sure other kids went a little bit further than I did. And Three Ninjas, yeah. What's better than when you're almost at your death moments to just pour jelly beans into your opponent's mouth to choke them? So that's definitely the ninja way.
Kids, and as a kid, to watch kids, I mean, just kick the dog shit out of a bunch of adults. I mean, just really inspired me.
Oh, I was doing roundhouses in my living room. I knocked over a few lamps. We're missing a few vases for sure.
And your dad's a pretty little guy. Did you ever think about karate fighting him when you were a kid, or did you not step to one?
Dude, my dad had like the little Mexican like that gorilla strength. So like I tried, he had that low center of gravity. Like we even tried foot racing one time. I was like, oh, I got you, no problem. We foot raced in Walmart parking lot. My dad smoked me, man. This is like in high school, like 8th, 9th grade. My dad just smoked me. I was like, man. And then we had a few wrestling tidbits here and there, and he would just, you know, hold me down. I'm like, man, my dad's he had the old man strength early.
Dads don't lose. I mean, if you would have won that race or that wrestling match, you would have taken over your family, and he knew that.
he knew a lot was on the line on those races. So yeah, we'll just have to see. But Three Ninjas, I'm excited to get Colt on there and talk about, because as classic as the first one, I actually did like the second one. Not too bad. Did you guys watch the second one too? Kickback.
They kind of blur together to me.
Yeah,
they go to Japan in that second one.
I remember growing up how badass I think it would have been to watch the Three Ninjas grandpa fight Mr. Miyagi.
I thought they're the same person when we first saw it.
The ultimate mentor showdown.
Dude, that would be awesome. I just loved Grandpa's in Three Ninjas. His noise that he's making, his eyes would just be like all cockeyed, and I don't know, it was crazy. But I would love to see a fight, a showdown between him and Miyagi.
The grandpa from Three Ninjas is the same guy from Gremlins, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, and he I don't know if he's still alive, but we left good old Pat Morita a while back. So there could only be a showdown in heaven at this point.
Until we finally get that hologram we all been waiting for.
Oh, we don't need Tupac holograms. We need Miyagi and Grandpa.
We need a Pat Morita hologram. Who's got money for that?
Get on it.
I'm on the Kickstarter right now.
Let's do it. So, well, yeah, that's like I said, I didn't have any other sports movies, and you know, like we said, the Adam Sandler movies are just he's 2 for 2 on the sports movies, so those are pretty solid. And we got a few things coming up with Three Ninjas, so we'll be getting that going in the next couple of weeks. But if you guys don't have anything else, definitely appreciate you guys taking the time to come on the podcast tonight. Let's just let's tell everybody where they can find you guys on social media, follow you, listen to your soothing voices.
You can get me at NAJ_TV, at NAJ_TV. That's on Twitter, Instagram, Naj Kofelt on Snapchat.
And you can follow me at Cody Lee Hudson on Twitter. You can also find the sport report at the reportofsport.com. Put out a podcast daily. You can hear Naj actually with me on the show every Monday. He breaks down all of the sports that happened over the weekend with men playing the sports.
Nice. What was the last thing you guys talked about in the last episode?
Today we actually celebrated the firing of Jim Mora from UCLA. I don't know if you remember those, but he was Bill Snyder, who's a legend in the state of Kansas, whether you're a KU fan or a K-State fan. And at one point, Jim Mora put a finger in Bill Snyder's face and gave him an ass chewing on TV. So a lot of people around here are pretty excited to hear Jim Mora is out of a job today.
Well, that's unfortunate, but I'm sure, like many coaches, he's probably still getting paid while either not working or finding another job in another year or two.
I don't think so. I think he's eating ramen, and I think his wife's probably about to leave him.
Oh, man. Well, there are those cases as well, so poor guy. Sorry, man. Well, best of luck to him.
So, I'm his wife. I'm looking for all my old boyfriends on Facebook right now.
I was gonna say, start finding his wife on Snapchat. There you go. You already make the move. So, well, thanks guys again, taking the time to be on the podcast today. Thanks everybody else for tuning into this episode of the Be Kind and Rewind podcast. Subscribe, like, follow, and rate the podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spreaker, YouTube, and PoopCulture Podcast Network at PoopCulture.com. So thanks, and be excellent to each other.